So everyone always talks about the culture shocks they get when they go to a different country. But what about when they come back home? Do they also go through this reverse culture shock? Let's talk about that. Let's get it. What is going on, guys? It is your boy DQ back at you again for yet another video. If you are brand new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. It is free and it's easy, and yeah, you know you want to. Today's video is actually going to be the reverse culture shocks that I always experience when coming back home to the US. I've lived in Germany for 5 years and Australia for 2 years, and so these are kind of the things that actually smack me in the face when I come back home. So yeah, let's get into it. So I think the first thing that actually shocks the living mess out of me, this actually happened on my way home from Australia back in March, and I landed in Hawaii. And I was just super hungry, so I actually went to the Burger King that was inside the airport, and they were like, oh, what size do you want your meal? And I was like, oh, I'll take it medium. And I got a cup that was like this big, and I was like, no, I want a medium cup. And they were like, oh no, that's medium. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Considering that a large drink typically in Australia or even Germany is maybe like that big and the cup is super skinny, whereas here the medium cup was literally like that thick and that big. The large cups are typically the same size as the medium cups but fatter, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot, and I literally posted on Instagram like, so this is why everyone thinks the Americans are kind of big boned a little bit, you know? One thing that I really do not use as loosely, I can't even say that word, loosely anymore, is the word friend. Because of Germany changed my perspective on the word friend. In Germany, it is hard to get friends, and yeah, I talk about that a lot, but once you get friends, in Germany, once you get friends, even though it takes a long time, you kind of have those friends for life. And that's exactly what happened with me. I talk to some of those friends even still to this day, and it's like we never left each other. But here in the US, you meet a lot of people and they become friends. But I realize now that I don't really use this word as much. I'm like, oh yeah, we hang out, or no, that's like a drinking companion, or I see this person all the time, but I don't really call them friends anymore like I would 10 years ago. Any person that I met that I liked, I'm like, oh yeah, we're friends. Oh yeah, we're friends. I would use that word all the time. And now, good luck if I use that word with you. I'm like, oh no, this is an old friend, or this is an old friend. I'm like, oh no, I'm hanging out with a bunch of people. I realized I really don't say it anymore. I do say it with my best friend. I'm like, oh yeah, my best friend. But other best friends that I've kind of lost contact with, I don't really call them best friends anymore. I say, this is my old best friend. And yeah, it's kind of harsh, but you know what? It's the reality of the situation. Another reverse culture shock that I always experience is driving. So I know a lot of people are gonna be like, what do you mean driving? We drive on the same side of the road as they do in Germany. And that is true. But I realized that I'm kind of heavy-footed a little bit when I drive. And so I'm like, oh shoot, I'm speeding. And in the US, you can't speed like you can in Germany. Germany, not everywhere on the Autobahn can you drive as fast as you want, but you can drive theoretically as fast as you want on the Autobahn. And here you have speed limits. Our speed limit typically is around 120 kilometers per hour or 70 miles per hour. And I realize I'm just sitting there zoned out, and then I'm like, oh shoot, I'm going 90 miles per hour, which is, I want to say, maybe like 160 kilometers per hour. Don't quote me on that. And another thing about driving, when I had a stick shift in Germany, I would realize when I got into an automatic car here in the US, I would try to shift, and I'm like, where's the Kupplung? I don't know what it is in English because I learned how to drive stick shift in German. Kupplung, clutch? Maybe it's called clutch. I was like, where's the clutch? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in an automatic car. So yeah. Another thing that's really smacks me in the face now that I'm working back in the US now because of COVID, well, I'm unemployed now, but I did work when I was here, are the taxes. I realized that the taxes are different. And this goes for income tax and also the taxes you see in the store as well. So my income tax when I was working in Germany, I was paying 51% taxes because I was self-employed. Whereas here in the US, you're paying around 23%. Yes, we don't get all the benefits that they do in Germany, but I see a lot more money in my pocket in the US than I do in Germany, and I kind of like it a little bit better that way. But another example of tax, well, they are taxes, are when you go to the grocery store or to the restaurant, you actually see the price. And in Germany and pretty much everywhere else in the world, that's the price you pay. Whereas here in the US, not really. And I kind of hate it. Every time I come back to the US for a couple weeks, or now that I'm here for a long time, I realize that I calculate how much I spend. This is very German of me, because Germans always calculate everything that they spend. So I would be at the restaurant and I'm like, okay, this is $5, my drink is $10, and then my food is maybe $20, so I'm paying $35. Nope, I get the bill and it's $43, and I'm always like, why is my bill higher than what I calculated? I'm not bad at math. Math was my best subject in school. This isn't wrong. And then I look, tax, and I hate it, hate it, hate it. This is the one thing that irritates me the most about the US. And a lot of people are like, well, the US have different places and different setups. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Tax doesn't change that much that they can't add it to the price. Even when I worked at a fast food restaurant, the 2 years that I worked at that fast food restaurant, I think by the time I quit, the tax had increased like 5 cents. And every time it would increase, it would just be a penny here, a penny here, a penny here. So they can do it in the US, they just don't want to. These last two kind of tie in together. I mean, considering that one, the sugar in Germany isn't as much sugar that you will get here in the US. In the US, the sugar is ridiculous. And this is a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, everyone loves American candy, right? You'd be surprised how many times Germans would be like, oh, can you get me Twinkies, or can you get me this American candy, or get me this, because it tastes so much different here in the US than it does in Germany. But it can also be a bad thing. I know when I first got home after 5 years in Germany, I had a piece of cake, just a piece of cake, and I felt sick to my bones. Like, I felt like I was about to throw up, my head was spinning, and I was like, what is wrong? I love cake, what is going on? And I realized I just had a sugar high from cake. It was ridiculous. I was just like, I can't, I don't feel good, like, stay away from me for right now. Like, it was bad. And last but not least, food. The food in the US, I think it's so much better. Don't get me wrong, there are some things that Germany has that are better than what they are in the US. Like cheese, for instance. The cheese in Germany is so much better, and the different types of ham is also better, and the food is more fresh. The bread is also better in Germany. But other than that, there's a lot of things that are so much better in the US than it is in Germany. Hit this video right here to actually see 6 foods that are better in the US than they are in Germany. I mean, the US has to be better at something, and I think these are some of the things that we're better at. Other than that, hit one of these other videos to see another video from my channel. And yeah, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Thumbs up, like it. Yeah, let's go.